Riccardo, we were joking before about we have green shirts on. Verdicchio, which is where the name of the grape comes from. Tell us about Verdicchio. When do you harvest this? It's we know it has very high levels of acidity. Tell us a little bit more about the grape itself.
Verdicchio is a grape, is a native grape from Le Marche region, and is a grape that normally keep a lot of freshness, a lot of acidity. So for this reason, the acidity, the freshness is one of the reasons that Verdicchio normally age for a long period, because the freshness, the acidity keep the wine alive for a lot of years. Normally in the past, they start the harvest after the 1st of October. In the last 20-25 years, we every year start the harvest a little bit earlier because of the climate change and because of also the reduction of the production. In the past, it was normal to produce more in the vines, in the vineyard. So normally in the past, they made also around 15, 18 ton each hectare. Now producers that make quality wines made around 10 each hectare. So almost the half of 30 of the production they made 30 years ago. So you can understand easier that if you make less quantity of bunches each plant, is normal that the maturation, the point of maturation arrive easier and before than in the past.
Right.
So for these two reasons, now we start the harvest in my village around the 15th of September. In particular here, like 2020 or 2021 maybe will be, and 2017. So here our vintage is really warm with not a lot of rain. We start the harvest at the beginning of September. So 1 month before than 25 years ago.
Okay. And it sounds like this will be a smaller crop this year. The yield.
Sorry?
It sounds like your crop, La Resa will be.
Normally when we don't have. Sure. Maybe it will be for sure, because we have too low quantity of water during the summer. And also during the spring, because in the past it was normal to have a lot of rain during the winter and a good amount of rain in the spring and the beginning of the summer. Normally 20-25 years ago, they start to the rain stop around the middle of July. So maybe in the past it was difficult to have water, to have rain in August, but in June and July, normally yes. In the last vintages, especially in the very warm vintages, like 21, 17, 2012, we haven't rained for months, normally.
Okay.
In some area of Castelli di Jesi. In the more hilly area, in the area closer to the mountains, it's normal to have a little bit more of rain, because every storm that cross the area, the hilly mountains area, sometimes give to some areas some water. But in some area, for example, I remember in Morro d'Alba in the vintage 2017, they haven't rained for 3 months.
Wow. Okay.
So a long period, especially for a white wine. Normally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But Verdicchio until now is he has the Verdicchio has a lot of is very strong. So also in difficult vintage, we have sometimes very good wine. But it's obviously that if we will have every year less water, it will be a problem in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. I want to ask both of you a question. I'll start, Gianluca, with you. I spoke last week with another producer of Verdicchio in your area, and I mentioned to him that it's many people that think this is the greatest white wine of Italy, and whether or not it is, you can certainly argue that, but it's a white wine that is delicious. It's a white wine that is very reasonably priced, and it's a white wine that ages for a long time. And it's a wine that with those factors, I would think that many, not only consumers, but many wine buyers, sommeliers at some of the top restaurants would focus on Verdicchio much more than they do. In the United States, you will almost never find a wine list with more than one or two examples of Verdicchio. And I just wonder, why do you think it's not more popular?
Okay, Verdicchio, I saw during the years that is growing in image and little growing in price. However, Verdicchio is an excellent, is famous for his excellent report quality price, especially yes, for Verdicchio Classico. In fact, all the company 70% medium sell his Classico in USA, and 30% superior and Riserva generally. Right. We sell in fact 85% of Classico and only 15 superior and Riserva, because Verdicchio in his DOC have different kind of typology: Classico, superior, and Riserva. But the name of the DOC is the same of the grape. And so for the people, it's difficult to understand the differences between Classico and superior, for example. Okay. And so this is the reason, because the Verdicchio is well sold in the Classico typology, the most quantity of the bottle. And so Classico, probably for all the company, is the most sold in USA, and so on.
Okay. What would you tell a sommelier at like a top restaurant, whether it's in Italy or the United States or some other country, why they should be selling more Verdicchio? I mean, they're not selling it like, you know, like white wines from Greco di Tufo, Campagna, or white wines from Friuli, or other white wines from Italy. What should they be doing? How can they sell more Verdicchio?
I don't understood your question. Why the Verdicchio is more sold in the restaurant, the basic typology, no, the basic
Gianluca dice come mai, cioè cosa dovremmo dire e cosa dovremmo spingere sui sommelier dei ristoranti per far vendere più Verdicchio.
On second me, yes, okay, grazie. On second me, we have to explain the quality of our terroir, or of our vineyards, respect the quality of the grapes and the typology, because the terroir can produce great wines in order to dure, like French wine, even 15 to 20 years in the time. A great wine is an excellent wine when it's good, recognizable, good in the mouth, recognizable, and durable in the time. And Verdicchio have all those three characteristics. This is the reason.
Thank you. Riccardo, why do you think it doesn't sell? I mean, I've heard reasons like, you know, 30, 40 years ago, the bottles were, you know, like or like a fish or something. It's like, yeah, that's a long time ago. I mean, people that are drinking wine today don't remember that for the most part. But it is, and some people have said, well, it's from Marche, and not enough people know the region of Marche. What do you think of the reasons why Verdicchio is as popular as it should be?
Yeah, the history of Verdicchio is very long. We have to remember that Verdicchio in the 50s was the first white, Italian white with Soave to be exported to the US. So the history of Verdicchio outside from Italy, in particular market like the US, is a very long history. We have a period in the past, like in the 70s, in the 80s, that Verdicchio was very famous for the amphora-shaped bottle, and this kind of bottle was at the time was the success of Verdicchio. So people love Verdicchio because of also especially the bottle. Then in the 80s, the idea of the bottle in the consumers was felt like bad quality wines. So people start to stop to drink Verdicchio. Because the quality of Verdicchio inside the amphora-shaped bottle was not so high. But at the same time, in the 90s, a lot of little winemaker, at the beginning a few, then every year some more winemakers, artisanal winemakers, start to make a very high quality Verdicchio. I think one of them are Garofoli, Villabucci, Fattoria Coroncino. So wine lovers in Italy first, and then all over the world, start to think that Verdicchio was not so bad. Maybe because in the past they drink a bad Verdicchio, but the quality of the good, the well-made Verdicchio is very high. And after 15 years, 20 years of high quality winemaking, in the medium of the 2000, more people, every year, more people all over the world start to love Verdicchio. In my opinion, to push more the wine in the market, we have to be more in the market because we have to be there in the US or in other markets important for the white wine all over the world, to tell the history of Verdicchio, to tell the quality of Verdicchio, to tell the history of our company, because people has to know every time more, every year more about Le Marche, about Castelli di Jesi, and about Verdicchio. It's the only way to be famous like a denomination. When someone didn't know about Verdicchio, is our fault. It's not his fault, no, because is the winemaker and are the company that has to be in the market to promote themselves and of course the denomination. Also because, in my opinion, Verdicchio has all the characteristic to be a very popular and a very well-known, well-considered white wine because of the quality, because of the possibility of aging. No, Tom, I know you love Verdicchio for a lot of reasons, and also because, in my opinion, the Verdicchio feel a lot the terroir. Inside the area of Castelli di Jesi, between one village and another village, we have the same difference that we have, for example, in the Langhe area, between one Barolo from Novello to another Barolo from Barolo, or to another Barolo from Verduno. You know, it's the same Barolo in the label, but is completely different the terroir, so it's very different the tasting of the wine. In Castelli di Jesi, we have, in my opinion, the same. The only problem is that the people that buy the wine doesn't know the difference between villages in the area of Castelli di Jesi.
Yeah. I would think that most people who are going to buy a Verdicchio, or even if it's like, let's say, a companion white wine like Greco di Tufo or Fiano di Avellino, there's little differences, little micro zones, but they're not looking for that. Like you said, with Barolo, when it's going to be 80 or 100 or 125 euro a bottle or dollars a bottle, you have to tell a larger story. You have to be more specific. I think maybe part of the problem is that it's a white wine, although if you look at Timorasso now in Piemonte, that's taken over a lot of publicity. There's been a lot of articles, and that's become very, very famous. And it's a very small area. There's not that many producers. There's not that much Timorasso produced, especially compared to Verdicchio. So it's
also an area that 30 years ago doesn't exist.
Exactly.
It's something very new, but it's being popular year after year.
Well, I appreciate your explanation. Of excellent. So that will lead me into this, because in terms of getting people to try new things and get excited about Verdicchio, you have a wine, I'll pop up the cork here. It's called Mai Sentito, which basically means it's never been heard, correct?
Yeah.
And why the name of that? This is as a pop this is a frizzante, and it's got like a cap on it, not a cork.
Is a sparkling wine, is a petit naturel, so it's a pear nut made with second fermentation inside the bottle, so it's cloudy, is a kind of a natural sparkling wine. Mai Sentito, the meaning of the name is because I was the first one in my area to make an ancestral method with Verdicchio. So we do a little joke about the name, about the reason of the name. It's an 80% Verdicchio, 20% Trebbiano. It's very, I really like this wine because it's so easy to drink, it's so easy to enjoy, and it's very easy to drink all over the day. There is not a perfect moment to drink Mai Sentito, because every moment is the perfect moment to drink Mai Sentito.
Yeah, just it's got a little cork there. I'm sorry, the capsule doesn't have a cork. I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't know that you're supposed to.
Yeah, I suggest to run over the bottle, to turn over the bottle a couple of
Next time I'll do that, but that's what it looks like.
Cloudy. It's cloudy.
And how many bottles of this do you produce?
It depends about the harvest, but normally 10,000 a year.
You mentioned sort of a pet nat, and I know that's kind of a trendy thing these days in the United States. So there's one reason that, you know, Verdicchio can pick up a little more popularity with a wine like this.
Yeah, also, I have to tell that also in Italy, this kind of wine are being more popular year after year.
Are they? Okay.
At the beginning, when I start to make Mai Sentito, no one in Le Marche made a wine like Mai Sentito, and now we have like 5-6 companies that make pet nut with Verdicchio. And all over the central part of Italy, every vintage I see more companies that start to make pet nut, because the market of this kind of wine are increasing year after year a lot, especially when you made a good wine with not a lot of strange tasting.
Yeah, it's very unusual. It's got kind of a lemony, custardy flavor to it. And it's only 11% alcohol, which is something we should point out as well. So it's again, very easy to drink. And this time of the year especially, it's very refreshing.
Yeah.
So. Great. Well, I'll come back to you, Riccardo. Gianluca, let's go to you and talk about the history of your winery. Now, I read that before you had the winery, you managed a very famous Enoteca in Roma. See?
Of course.
Are you from Rome? Are you from Rome originally?
Yes, I was born in Rome. In fact, I am the third generation in producing wine. In fact, my grandfather founded Montecappone in 1968.
Okay.
And 10 years before, he founded Enoteca Bonprezzi in Rome. And so we are in that area, is the most ancient wine shop in Rome. My mother was the first professional sommelier in Rome.
Oh, really?
Because she awarded sommelier in 1988 and was the first woman professional sommelier. However, I live here in Jesi from 1997, when I come from Rome in order to produce wine. I am married with Anarita, that was born in Rome too, and she lives with me here in Jesi, where I am transferred 25 years old in order to produce wine.
Right. I put up a picture of some of your vineyards here, so go ahead.
Yes, those are part of my vineyards. I have many hectares. I am a company that do not buy nor grapes nor wines. In fact, we have many hectares of vineyard vineyards and olive oil plants. In fact, you can see I have 40,000 extra virgin olive oil plants.
Wow. Yeah, I've tried several of your
in fact, I produce many monocultivar.
Right, just a single variety of olives, right?
In fact, this photo was taken by my father. My father is dead in 2016, but he loves make photo around Vigna and around the Marche region and around all the Doc Verdicchio, because she loves vineyards too. And this is the DOC. Riccardo spoke about the DOC. This is the map of Verdicchio area.
Map.
I wrote a line that divides, on second me and other people, the DOC for the soils in two areas. The most calcareous area that start from Cingoli, driving for Staffa, San Paolo, Monte Roberto, Castelbellino, across the Esino River, and go to Castelplanio, Montecarotto. This west area is more calcareous. This other is less calcareous. In fact, the wine that come from this other area are different for the maturation of the grapes.
Okay.
In this area, this is colder area. This other is hottest respect to the DOC, 2,000 hectares of the denomination. And so is like Riccardo was saying, says is a large denomination, and so the difference in the glass are many because the DOC is larger respect other DOC.
Okay, I'm going to put up a picture there, and your importer in the United States, national importer, as
this is my, in fact, this is my entry-level wines.
Exactly. But please tell us about that one.
Verdicchio di Castelli di Jesi classico, and I have in the glass. This is the vintage wine, the vintage Verdicchio, the most simply Verdicchio.
Yes, and the current release is 2020, correct?
2020. I produce all my wines, even basic wines like this, in reduction idea, in reduction style. We produce with this style in order to preserve, to protect the aroma of the grapes that during the year grow in this area. In fact, if you protect the grapes, you will find more quantity of aromas of the grapes in the glass. This is the idea, the reductive idea.
Now, I've tasted both the 2019 and the 2020. What are the differences in the two vintages?
Okay, I show to you. I don't know if you can read.
Yes.
The Winkler index. Winkler index, it means the quantity of exposition to the sun and the rain. Vintage 2019 have a 2019 in Winkler index with 894 total millimeter of rain, and a good vintage. But 2020 is low. The Winkler index are lower.
Right.
1,999.
Right.
With low quantity, a little low quantity. Are similar, similar vintages. I'm reading, but I do not translate it. I'm translating.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Only 2019 is fresh respect the 18, but the 19 respect the 20 was more rainy, and so
Right.
best the 19 respect the 20 on second me.
And you said earlier that 2021, the rain is very low quantity.
2021 is a very difficult vintage, especially for white wines.
Okay.
But for red too, for red wines too.
Okay, I'm going to put up you have a second, you had produced several examples of Verdicchio, but we're talking about two main ones that the Banville imports in the United States. So the second one is called Utopia. There's
yes, of course, Utopia.
Tell us about these vineyards, and then we'll talk about the wine.
These vineyards was located in Poggio San Marcello, and have a terroir, a beautiful terroir, calcareous terroir, and located at 300 meters above sea level. And this kind of wine, old Vigna, 20 years old, produce our best white Verdicchio imported in USA, named Utopia.
And this is a Riserva.
Riserva. Castelli di Jesi, Verdicchio Riserva Classico.
Okay. And the current vintage that you released is 2018.
Current vintage is 2016.
Oh,
16. In next December, we will exit with 18, vintage 18, 2018. But I sell only to some sommelier or expertise old vintages, 2007, 2008, 2009. I have an historical memory in my cantina because every year I stock 1,500 bottles of Utopia. And so I have an historical memory in order to taste or to sell for the sommelier or the people who loves this wine.
And there's a picture of the bottle. I've tried a couple different vintages. It definitely has a little more intensity to it. Although it's not a powerful wine, but much more persistence in the finish, beautiful texture. What depends on the vintage, of course, but what's the aging potential on this wine?
This wine is aged for 3 years. 1 year sur lit with batonnage,
right,
and 2 years in the bottle. Our Utopia can dure for 15 to 20 years old. In fact, Verdicchio and the best Verdicchio can dure for so many time. Our Utopia, we have aged vintage of 15, 17 years old, and is in excellent conditions.
Yeah, that's great.
Because of the grape, because of our style, for example, that do not oxidate the grapes. We give the water if if the plants needs, in order to have the leaves well covered, in order to do not burn the skin of the grapes.
Right.
And then we vinify without oxygen, and all the phases of the transfer of the wines, musts and wines are protected. The wine is protected from the oxygen, because the oxygen is the enemy of the wine,
right,
of the white wine, especially in certain moments. We refine Utopia
in cement tanks, right?
In cement tanks, concrete or cement tanks, and a little quantity from 2015 refine in new barrique for the first and second
Yes.
of the first second year, but only 10 to 15%,
okay,
and from the vintage 2015.
Okay, Riccardo, let's talk about I've tried you tell how many examples of Verdicchio do you make? There's two that I've tried. And I'll put up the label here.
Sorry, I don't understand.
No, this is for Riccardo.
Riccardo, okay. Bye.
Right. So this is your Classico
Yeah, this is my Classico Superiore. Yeah, the history of my company is we are almost a young company. I started to make wine 10 years ago. My father in the past made wine like his hobby. Then I fell in love with this business when I was 20, so I decided to spend my life making Verdicchio, and my company was born in 2010. Now we made 3 different kinds of Verdicchio di Castelli di Jesi. The first one is our Verdicchio La Staffa, that is our bestseller wine, is our company cuvée. So now we have 12 hectares of vineyard, Verdicchio vineyard planted between 1972 and 2017. We harvest each parcel in a different moment. The fermentation and the aging was in some different tanks. After the harvest, I start to taste all the tanks, and I decide how to blend it together to make Verdicchio La Staffa. So for this reason, Verdicchio La Staffa is our company cuvée. Normally for this blend, I have several rules to make this blend. One of these rules are that I don't use bunches that came from vineyard younger than 10 years old. Okay. So in Verdicchio La Staffa, we have vineyard from 10 to 50 years old. We use
picture of you with the concrete tanks.
Yeah. We use steel and concrete tanks for Verdicchio La Staffa. We have a lot of concrete tanks like Gianluca also in our cellar. Concrete tanks is the history of Verdicchio.
How old are these tanks?
This in the picture came from the 70s.
Okay.
So 40, 50 years old. But the concrete tanks in the Verdicchio area are very historical. We have in the area we have cellar built at the end of 19th century, built with concrete tanks built inside. Right. So no, is something that tells to us that also 120 years ago they make Verdicchio in concrete tanks.
Right. Yeah, I think people tend to forget that stainless steel tanks were not introduced until about maybe the late 60s or early 70s in California.
Yeah.
And then in Italy uses them. Not everybody, but many people in Italy use them. But I know there's a much bigger movement these days to go back to cement tanks and concrete.
In the area of Castelli di Jesi, concrete steel tanks arrive in every cellar at the beginning of 90s because in the area winemaking was very pure, so people don't spend a lot. That didn't invest a lot in the technology in the cellar. So they have the old concrete tanks and they continue to use it for a lot of years. At the beginning of 90s, people start to spend more in technology in the cellar. So we start to have almost everywhere steel tank. But in the past, they use only concrete and big barrel in hood.
Right.
Yeah. No. The concrete tanks, in my opinion, are a perfect tanks for the making of Verdicchio. Is a perfect tank for the making of Verdicchio for a lot of reasons, and especially in my opinion for the shape. Verdicchio, is a wine that is very cool if you drink it young, but is very special if you keep it for 4 or 5 years and then you come back to taste the wine. So Verdicchio is a wine that normally needs 6-8 months to age on the lees in the cellar before the bottling. And the shape of the tank is very important for this process of aging. I try to explain you why. During the aging, the lees, it is important to have contact between the lees and the wine. Right. So to have contact, normally we do batonnage in both tanks, in steel and also in concrete tanks. But the majority of the time, the lees is settled down in the bottom of the tank, right?
Right.
If you have a steel tank, you have normally the bottom of the tank is a cone,
right?
So all the lees are in a tiny space, and normally concrete steel tanks are very high and very not very
narrow?
large, no?
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
very narrow. Yeah. So the surface of contact between lees and wine is very, very little. It's very small. Concrete tanks, the shape of concrete tanks is normally they are very tiny and very large. So the bottom of the tank are flat, and we have a big surface of contact between the wine and the lees. Sometimes also 10 times larger than. So the contact is the same, if you think, is the same process, is the same idea that you use when you age a metodo classico. After the tirage, you close the bottle of the metodo classico spumante,
right.
And then you put the bottle in this way for 2, 3, 4 years,
right.
And then you put the wine in the bottle up and down right. To disgorge the bottle. The idea to age the wine in the bottle in this way is to have more surface of contact between the lees and the wine.
Right. There's a more even distribution of
yeah. And the contact between the wine and the lees is bigger, the surface of contact. So the lees gives to the wine more aromas and more tasting in less time.
And one other question, and we'll talk about your Reserva, but I've also been told by producers too that when you use a concrete or cement tank as opposed to a stainless steel tank, the reason you do that is also you get a little bit more purity, varietal purity.
Sure.
Because I understand there's a little bit of chemical reaction in a steel tank that you don't get in a concrete tank or a cement tank.
Yeah, for sure. And another reason is also that the concrete tanks are very thick, so the temperature inside is very stable during the year. This is very important. Another reason. But in my opinion, for Verdicchio, the characteristic I explained to you 2 minutes ago is the most important characteristic, because Verdicchio, to be good, to be like we like, has to spend time on the lees. And in concrete tanks, it spends times better in the lees. Okay.
Gianluca, do you want to add anything to that comment about why you use the concrete tanks?
Are the same reason and another in particular, for example, steel tanks give electrical carica, charge to the wine.
Right.
And so in some moments, the wines become too much reductive.
Right.
And so the concrete tanks are better even for this. And the concrete tanks otherwise give a little quantity more oxygen respect the steel tanks. But the other reason, Riccardo say in a good way. So.
Okay. Riccardo, let's go back to you. Let's talk about your Reserva. I'll put up the label here.
Yeah.
Of the
Rincrocca. Yeah.
What does that name mean?
Rincrocca is the name of the hill where the vineyard was planted in 1972. Okay. So it's a single vineyard selection. We made 2 single vineyard selections, Rincrocca and Selva di Sotto. Because the idea is that I told you we harvest and fermented every parcel in different tanks, so we have the possibility to taste every single plot after the harvest. During the year, we understand that a couple of plots are really different in quality if we compare to all the other one. And these two are Rincroc and Selva di Sotto. So we decide to make single vineyard selection from these only two parcels.
Okay.
Maybe in the future, if I will find another very particular and very special plot, I will make another single vineyard selection. But at the moment, we have only two single vineyard selection. Rincroc, the fermentation is only in concrete tanks. After the fermentation, normally we age the wine for 1 year on the lees in concrete tanks.
Right.
Then we bottle the wine and we age the wine in the bottle for 1.5 years, 2 years before the release. Like a winemaker, I trust a lot in the aging in the bottle. I think that the aging in the bottle before the release is one of the most important aging for Verdicchio in general. For this reason, for example, my new vintage of La Staffa will be released in September 21. So the new vintage of Verdicchio La Staffa, the 2020, will be released in September 21 because normal we age the wine 6 months on the lees and then 6 months in the bottle before the release. Especially for the Riserva, because in the Riserva we need to have more time. We need to spend more time inside the bottle because are normally wines that need more time to be well balanced. Because we like, right. Yeah, because we like to have very elegant and very balanced white wine. And during these 11 years, I saw a lot of times how my Verdicchio changed after 4 or 5 years of bottle aging. So now, in the last 4 or 5 years, we decide to keep a lot the wine in the cellar after the bottling before the release.
And the current vintage is 2017 on the Riserva, with Rincroc.
The current vintage in Italy is 2018, but what was released at the beginning of May, so it's normal that you don't have in the US by now. We will, right. Maybe it will be on the market in September.
Okay. And what is your best estimate on aging on that?
Like a Verdicchio, normally we think that Verdicchio, we taste a lot of old Verdicchio. So normally we feel that Verdicchio age at least 10 years. My oldest vintage is 2010, and the wine is still very good, perfect. It depends a lot about also the cork. Sometimes in the past we have had problem with corks, so sometimes they doesn't work very well, and they didn't work very well. So after 4 or 5 years, the wine start to go a little bit down. But in the last year, we change cork producers, and we are very happy with the producers we use now. So I think that normally 10 years is the minimum. Okay. We expect to have aging, we expect to have with our Verdicchio. Also with Verdicchio La Staffa. So sometimes now you can buy a bottle of Verdicchio La Staffa for not a lot of dollars, and you can keep it for 5, 6 years, and then taste an amazing white wine that you buy for a few amount of wine.
Yeah. I mentioned the importer of Gianluca's wines before in the United States. So just to be equal time, I want to mention the help I got from Katja and Jacopo at Tisano in Vermont. And then another person I know who reports your wines in Oakland is Oliver McCrum. So thank them. So it's the last few minutes. I have a menu here from the restaurant you probably know. Ristorante di Cecchette in Porto Nova in Kona. And I'm looking at
it when you were in Italy. You stole it.
Well, I didn't steal it. I asked, and he said that it's fine. So I was with a friend who recommended it. But and I see all sorts of secondi piatti. I see all sorts of fish. So everything from calamari to frittura mista di pesce, mixed fishes. I see rana, anglerfish. Cozze, mussels. What do you like? Riccardo, let's start with you. What do you like with that?
I like everything you read. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. You know, the typical coast here in Le Marche is very beautiful. It's very good. Both the seaside and the countryside dishes are very particular, and the match with Verdicchio is perfect. Normally, we have for sure we match Verdicchio with fish, with a lot of different kind of fish, because if you pick a Verdicchio, a young Verdicchio, maybe it's better to pair with like crudité, raw fish,
Okay.
or with spaghetti with mussels. But if you take like a riserva, it's better to have it with a fish in the oven, for example.
Okay.
Little bit more structure in the dish. And if you go in the countryside, if you are in the countryside, for sure we have a lot of white meat in the typical dishes of Le Marche, for example, rabbit. We have a beautiful traditional dish, is coniglio in porchetta, rabbit in porchetta. So it's a rabbit
That's
made,
great.
yeah, cooked in the oven with wild fennel, black olive, and skin, pork skin inside. Is an amazing dish to pair with a beautiful verdicchio.
You're making me very hungry. So.
Yeah, it's a
Gianluca, on this menu, I see stoccafisso con
Correct.
I don't know stockfish. Tell me about that fish.
Stockfish, stoccafisso, is the fish of the country. Verdicchio is produced in country, and so for me the best matching on second of the structure, but is white meat and stockfish.
Okay.
Because it's produced in the country 20 kilometer from the sea at 25 okay. or 30, and so stockfish and white meats.
Sounds great.
Those are the best matching for Verdicchio.
Sounds good. And the last question, I noticed behind you there you have many of your wines and your oils, which I highly recommend. They're terrific. You also make some Metodo Classico, Verdicchio, which I've had a number of times from different producers, and it's a lovely sparkling wine.
Yes, of course. I produce Verdicchio Metodo Classico. It's here, my back, in Monteroberto, in Mirizzi company, 24-month aged Surly. And for me, Verdicchio is an excellent Metodo Classico. In fact, for the acidity, this Metodo Classico can be very fresh and can endure after the degorgement for 3 to 5 years in the time. And so it's an excellent variety in order to produce a sparkling wine. In fact, sparkling Verdicchio was born not in France, sparkling wines. Verdicchio was made from a doctor in Fabriano, Scacchi. Dr. Scacchi produced Verdicchio 70 years before Dom Perignon.
Really?
Only few people knows this, but is the true history of the sparkling wines classic method.
Great. I just got one comment from one of the viewers who said he's getting very hungry. So Jess, I am too. You mentioned all these great fish and everything. So
sparkling Verdicchio is well matching for all dishes, all fishes.
Okay.
I suppose, for example, oysters, because Verdicchio have a little part of aromatic component in the glass, and so is excellent for oysters, for example, or for all the food, all the lunch, all the dinner. In fact, have the structure is well structured for in order to be a good partner for the lunch.
Okay. Gianluca, thank you. Riccardo, thank you. This has been wonderful. I hope everyone learned quite a bit about Verdicchio. I did. It's been too many years since I've been there, so I'm going to travel soon. Fingers crossed I make it down the market. So.
You have to we hope to have you here soon, very soon.
Grazie a te.
Grazie a voi, thank you.
Ok,
Cin cin.
ciao ciao.
Linda, ciao, ciao.
Ciao Gianluca.
Ciao Riccardo, ciao.
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 Ciao.